Hello and welcome back to my channel where I like to have fun with all things beauty while being critical about what I accept into my collection. Today is going to be a little bit different of a video for me. So I had originally planned on doing a Nomad ranking ahead of the Nomad Sale, which is something they do every year, and it's definitely the best time to get these palettes at the best prices. And I own 19 of their palettes. So I thought a ranking style video would be useful for a sale like this if you're looking at picking things up. However, something came up in my life last week, and not only has it prevented me from wearing eyeshadows, so I can't really talk about their two newest palettes, but it's also made me temporarily feel pretty ill. So I want to apologize right now for my lack of editing in this video. This is not in any way my preference, but it was this or skip another week. So I figured rather than abandon the video altogether, I'll talk about my palette recommendations, I'll go through the website, and I won't waste your time talking about the palettes that are no longer available. We'll go through the website together and I'll share my thoughts. The other thing I wanted to mention, since this will be my last video before it's officially both Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I wanted to share things that I'm doing to keep up with those sales. And then for the second half of the video, I plan on just sharing my tale of woe, telling you everything about what I went through last week, and hopefully it can just sort of be helpful information to store in the old knowledge bank. I didn't want to make the entire video about that, so as always there will be timestamps in the description box. Alright, so first up, who do I follow to stay abreast of the sales when there seem to be coming left, right, and sideways this time of year? There are two accounts on Instagram. So the Beauty Steal and Beauty Deals BFF are my two favorites, and they do an excellent job, especially sharing things immediately to their stories. So they're right there with links, ready to go. They cover just about everything, anything that I care about anyway. Also, Alice in the Rabbit Hole. I will link her Black Friday video in the description box. She has probably saved me more money than any other creator simply because she turned me on to using the cashback services like Rakuten, Be Frugal, and Top Cashback. At this point, I've actually gotten hundreds of dollars back just through shopping using those links, and it's absolutely worth it. But she's also the queen of sales. So she has all the math figured out. She knows exactly when to shop, how to spend your points the wisest. She's excellent when it comes to Ulta and all things K-beauty, so I highly recommend following her as well. The sites on Instagram are the best at letting me know about sales, but Alice is the best at teaching me how to make my dollar stretch the farthest. So both super important right now. So speaking of Alice, I'm going to talk about a tip shopping the Sephora sale that she taught me a few years ago. And we do keep seeing these every year. I don't know exactly how many years it's been going on, but we get the 20% off discount in December, but we also get a 25% off discount if you use Klarna or Afterpay. Now, until Alice explained this to me, I was under the impression that if you use those services, you had to pay an installment. I hate that so much. It stresses me out. I don't like credit cards. I don't like anything that has to do with paying after the fact. It makes me super uncomfortable. So needless to say, I've never looked into those services. However, you don't actually have to pay in installments. You can choose an option to pay in full. And I can confirm, because I've done it several years now, you can pay the whole thing immediately and still get the 25% off coupon to work for you. The only catch is that it caps out at $35. So the most you can spend is $140 to get the maximum $35 back. So my plan always is to do that in one purchase, and then anything left over, I'll wait a few days and then use the 20% off coupon that we're getting December 5th to 14th. So that's a one-time use code, but it's 20% off for all tiers, and the 25% off Klarna or Afterpay is December 1st. So you do kind of have to keep those two deals in mind, but outside of getting a Sephora credit card, that's probably the best you're gonna do. The other thing that Sephora is doing this year is they're having 50% off starting on November 27th. So I plan on going through that. I haven't gone through that yet, but when I do, I'll make sure to screenshot my best picks and I'll put those up on Instagram. And also combing through that, I'll make sure that I'm not picking up any of the items that I might be buying with the coupon. I mean, it's very unlikely. They're probably not the newest items on there, but 50% off will get me to comb through the sales pages. One thing that I'm thinking of picking up during the Sephora, one of the discounts, is this Huda Easy Bake Powder. I was able to get my hand on this little little sample, and I always ignored this powder because I have the driest skin on earth, but I've heard enough people say that it's good despite that, even if you have dry skin, and I have to say that I am liking it so far. So I'm going to keep using my tester, and then I might go ahead and pick that up. Anything else is probably going to be holiday gift related, that kind of thing. The other sale that I'll mention very quickly is the Dior sale that's happening now. I finally got my hands on shade 850 Starry Mauve. It's what's on my face today, and I really love it. I would almost say that this is my new favorite blush, but I have used it exactly one time, so I know that I can't make a claim like that yet. Needless to say, I'm happy with it. So if you're on the fence about wanting to try it, if you can get it from Dior directly for a sale, it comes with really nice samples and really nicely packaged. So I think anything from this collection makes a really nice gift. All right, now let's move on to the Nomad sale. So they've broken this down into 3 main deals. The first is the one it started already. So from Monday, November 24th to Thursday, November 27th, you can get $10 off orders 50 plus, $50 off orders 150 plus, and $100 off orders 250 plus. That's definitely their biggest discount, but it only really makes sense if you plan to get 5 palettes because the prices vary, but for estimation purposes, let's say they're each around $50. So that's the best deal for the person that's been waiting all year to stock up on some of these palettes, or they're just new to the brand. The second deal they have going is from Friday, November 28th to Sunday, November 30th, and that's going to be 50% off their single palette. So it's just one palette. It's the Après Ski palette, and that is one of the very few palettes by them that I don't own. So I did break down the math on this, and if you wait to get it for 50% off, it's roughly $25. But if you decided to buy it as part of your bundle of $250 worth of items to get $100 back, it would be roughly $30. So the best price for that palette is still the 50% off. Their third deal is for Cyber Monday, and that is 30% off site-wide, no exclusions, and that runs from December 1st to December 2nd. So these are the 3 deals in the order in which they are running, and it really just comes down to how many palettes you plan on picking up. If you don't plan on getting more than 1, I definitely would wait for the 30% off. And if you have any questions, I happen to know that they're very quick answering all kinds of stuff through DMs on Instagram, so you can definitely have them go over the math and tell you what the best deal is. One thing that I wanted to mention really quick, if you're shopping this current sale, for example, and you're just under $150, you're probably going to look at the accessories to sort of boost your cart so you get a bigger discount. And I have to say, my experience is that everything that they come out merch-wise is excellent. The quality is second to none. For example, I have the Keys Beachy and Peachy canvas bag, and I love this thing. It is so well made. I easily could have bought that in a store. I am so happy with it. I also really like the look of the Pacific Northwest wool beanie. I held off because I live in South Florida, so I knew that I definitely did not need that in my life, but it looks beautiful and I think it is really well made. The one thing I would probably skip on is the candle, the Chicago Speakeasy candle. I have this and they say it's scented, but I don't really notice the scent. This says exotic cardamom gives way to a smoky blend of rich vetiver and warm sandalwood. And I gotta be honest with you, I almost thought that this was unscented. I didn't realize this had a scent. So it is beautiful to look at, but unless you know you'll appreciate it for the aesthetic, I would say maybe pick something else. The other thing that could be looked at as an add-on, because I've used these as add-ons in the past, but I'm just not the biggest fan of, are their little mini palettes. I have the Travel, the original one, and Oslo, and these aren't terrible, but I just never reach for them. So if you find a color story that really speaks to you, they might be somewhat worth it. Otherwise, I'd suggest the tote bag and the hat. It seems funny, but I think they actually do a really great job on their merch. All right, so finally, what are my top recommendations from Nomad? I am wearing the new Christmas palette today, and I do think it is really stunning. I want to start by saying that fortunately, gone are the days where the quality and the formulas are inconsistent with these palettes. These three are the only ones that I currently own that I would tell you to avoid. The Safari palette is adorable, but I do not like the formula in this. I find it difficult to use, and I feel similarly about these two, but they're not even available anymore. Pretty much the rest of my stack, which I'll pop a picture up on the screen here, is a safe bet. So I would almost argue that it just comes down to color story. If you see a color story in one of these palettes that you really like, every single thing available on the website right now, except for the Safari palette, is a safe bet. So you kind of can't go wrong. And that makes my job really easy because after that, it's just preference. So if you like it, I recommend it. That truly is what it comes down to, because I feel like I could sit here and tell you how much I love the New Zealand palette, for example, because I think the duochromes in here are absolutely spectacular. But if you don't like this exact color story, it's not going to be worth it for you. So I'm happy to say that having all of these palettes that I purchased with my own money and using them pretty extensively, except for the Royal Europe Intense Color and Chrome palette and Polar Express. Those are the only two that I don't own, except for Après Ski, which I plan on picking up during the sale. So only 3 palettes out of everything that's available. I recommend all of it. I will very quickly sort of rapid fire style go through these in the order that I like them in, but I can tell you without a doubt in my mind that this is just an arbitrary order and they're all good. In the future, I will do another ranking like this where I take the whole thing a lot more seriously, and I will include looks and swatches for each and every palette. So that will be a resource that I'll work on before the sale for next year. But in the meantime, this is my makeshift palette ranking. So first I'm going to put up the Christmas one because I've only used this once. I can't really talk about this, so I'm going to put that to the side, but I do really love it, especially some of these topper shades. I think they're absolutely stunning, and I love my eye look today. So outside of that, number 1 is actually going to go to the new Pacific Northwest. I do need more time to digest this palette, but this is another one with absolutely stunning duochromes. I love the quality. I love everything about this palette. So number 1. Number 2 is New Zealand. Number 3 is Chicago Speakeasy. Number 4 is Fuji 5 Lake. Number 5 is Fairy Tale Europe. Number 6 is Ghost Town. Number 7 is Ireland. Number 8 is the Keys palette. Number 9 is the Provence palette. Number 10 is Route 66. Number 11 is Witch City. Number 12 is the Parks palette. 13 goes to Berlin. 15 goes to Oslo. 16 goes to the Travel palette. 17 goes to Haunted Europe. 18 goes to Monteverde. And 19 goes to Safari. So again, having used the reformulations of the anniversary palettes, I don't think there's a single quality issue that I have to talk about other than they just keep getting better. So luckily, a hit or a miss for me is going to come down to the color story and just my own preferences. So that is good. That is the type of thing that I used to be able to say about Pat McGrath motherships. I'd say you'd be happy with any of them if you like the color story. I no longer feel that way, but there are brands that are just consistently good across the board, and I'm happy to say that Nomad is now one of those brands. So for me, looking at this sale, I definitely want the Après Ski. That color story is super unique and would add value to my collection, so I'll definitely be doing my best to pick that up. The other 2 that I don't own, so the Polar Express, I didn't pick that up last year because I felt like the color story was just a little bit redundant. I don't wear a ton of blue or red or gold for that matter, so I knew that I didn't really need this. I guess I would consider it at 30% off, but I'm not sold on that yet. And the only other one that I don't have is the Royal Europe Intense Color and Chrome. And as beautiful as I think this is, I don't think that I would get enough use out of it for it to be valuable to me. They did at one point sell singles of these duochromes, so I actually do own 2 of them, Bleu de France and Royal Treasure, and they're both great. So the formula in here is good, I can confirm. I just don't really think I need this, so if I get anything, I think it'll just be the Après Ski and possibly Polar Express. Oh, I guess the other thing I could mention here are these Witch City Salem Spellbinding lipsticks. I think the yellow one is the only one left, and like, yes, these are cool to look at. Do I wear them though? No, I don't. Not a regret, but more of a novelty item, not something that I'm gonna get a ton of use out of. So I did want to mention that. While I was editing this, I saw this from Nomad Cosmetics on their Instagram. This was posted to their stories, and I would definitely suggest following them over there. They do a good job of keeping things up to date. And while I'm sad that a lot of people missed out on getting this during the current sales. I am happy to hear that they are planning on another sale. So December 8th to 9th, I don't know any of the details on that, but you will still be able to purchase this most likely at a discount in December. They are also really good at letting people know what is running low and what will and won't be restocked. So there's 4 palettes that are running low. The Berlin Underground and America's Parks, I would not be heartbroken if I lost either of these from my collection. I do like them, but I don't feel like I definitely need them. So it's not the end of the world. I could say the same thing for the Ireland palette because as much as I do like it, I know at least part of it is because I'm Irish and I just feel an attachment to this palette. I think the greens are beautiful. It's not something I reach for every day, so I could live without it. I do have a lot of green. And obviously I don't own Royal Europe, so I can't really comment on that one, but these are the 4 that are currently running low, and I would definitely follow them on Instagram for further updates during the sale. And that's really it. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions more in depth about any of these palettes, please feel free to leave that down below. I would love to talk more about them. Again, I plan on doing that in the future, but for now, this is what I have to say about this sale. This is my strategy going into sale season, trying to get my gifts worked out without losing my mind like everybody else. So I hope this was somewhat helpful. Now I'll go into a little bit of a story time. So I've lit a candle and gotten myself a cup of tea. I'm going to do my best to try to sound natural. I desperately wish that I could be more like Charlotte Holdcroft because I feel like she can tell a story like nobody else. She has the weirdest things happen to her, but she makes it so engaging and interesting. I almost feel like I like those videos better than makeup reviews because like I've had it to hear with makeup. I'm starting to get sick of all the sales and the deals, and I just like to hear somebody talk about their life. I'm an open book. I would do that more if I felt like I could do it naturally, but I really don't think I can. So it's not something that I do a lot of. I do try to talk about things from time to time if they come up because I think it's important for people to know what my values are and what I stand for as a human being. So I do touch on things from time to time, but it's not something that I do naturally, so to speak. So I'm hoping people can bear with me on this. I'm mostly sharing it because it taught me a really important lesson. One that I wish I didn't have to learn the way I did, but one that I will certainly never forget. So if it can help save even one person out there from having to experience what I went through last week, I'm gonna put it out there and share it just in case. As uncommon as it may be, it happened to me, so it can happen to somebody else too. Anyway, what am I talking about? So I realized that I said last Friday in this video. It was not last Friday. Last Friday I was still sick, but this happened the Friday before last, so that was November 14th. I was home alone. My husband was out of town. I went to take my puppy to the vet because he is in desperate need of a neuter. He needed blood work ahead of that, so we went to have his blood work. You know, it always takes a long time. So I was out of the house for several hours. We get home, I open the front door, and I'm immediately hit with this weird smell. So I instantly knew that something was wrong. Wasn't sure what, but it was probably related to the AC. Checked the thermostat, lo and behold, the AC is definitely not working. It was 78 degrees in the house. Luckily, I wasn't too freaked out because it happened at the right time of year. It wasn't gonna get that hot. I live near Miami. It's very far south, so we still need our AC, but it's not the end of the world if we have to go without it, especially at night. So anyway, I call my husband because he's like the AC whisperer. He seems to know everything there is to know about how to fix an AC. Thank God, because it's not comfortable to live without that here. So I call him up and he walks through different troubleshooting type of things with me. I'm in the AC closet. I open it up, so I remove the filter that's in front of it, whatever. It's kind of a cumbersome setup because we don't have the most space back there, but I remove what I need to check these little switches that automatically turn it off if it's not draining properly. So there's 2 different places where they have these switches, so that's always what we check first. As soon as I open the door to the closet, and especially when I remove the filter, I was hit with a really strong ozone smell. In editing, I realized that I neglected to finish this thought. So essentially what was happening, because the AC was off, the ozone ozone wasn't circulating, it was building up. So the reason that the AC actually broke that I found out the next day is because ozone can melt plastic, especially when it builds up. So it was melting the circuit breakers. It was also definitely contributing to my irritation in my eyes and nose. Now, about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, we replaced our AC. So we have a brand new AC unit, and let me tell you, it was one of the biggest mistakes we have made since moving into this house. When we first got here, we were lucky. We had a huge AC unit that was really, really good. Really, really expensive, old school AC. However, because it was so big, we couldn't clean it properly. It didn't really fit in the space that we had for it inside the house. So my husband did everything he could meticulously to keep everything in pristine condition, to get as much life out of it as we could. But finally, when we realized that the prices were increasing exponentially, we decided just to get ahead of it, to get a new AC before the old one broke, to try to be smart essentially and get something that was more energy efficient, something brand new we weren't gonna have to worry about, yada yada. We thought it was the right thing. And I mean, it would be the right thing if we got a better unit. So we decided to go with the company that installed the original one, since the last homeowner left all the details. We call them up, they come over, and they sell my husband on this unit. It has all the right specs, it says all the right things. We think we're good to go. This is a good investment. Fast forward just a few weeks and it starts turning off again and again. And it starts having all kinds of problems. We have the guys back, they keep having to service it, but they don't know why it keeps clogging. We put a very expensive pump system in so that everything gets flushed out properly. Doesn't seem to do the trick, it keeps getting clogged. Finally, the guy tells my husband, he's like, you have two choices. You can either clean it out once a month, because it was forming algae. That's why the pump wasn't working properly, because this AC was built differently. So like our other AC was built, the whole inside of it was built with a material that is resistant to bacteria and algae, and this new one is not built with that. It's built with something that loves bacteria and algae. So that kept building up and clogging it. So even though my husband cleans out our AC every 3 months anyway, he takes the hose in the house and he flushes everything, he does all of that stuff already, we were gonna have to start doing all of that once a month instead of once every 3 to 6 months, which is kind of insane. Or our other option was to install a blue sanitizing UV light. Sounds a little bit annoying, but whatever. The guy was like, you can either let us install it for a few $100 up to $1,000, or you can just buy one on Amazon and put it in yourself. It's no big deal. He made it clear though that it was no big deal. The thing that confused me the most was people with a lot of money, they don't clean their own ACs ever. That's just not something they do. They want to buy an AC and they want it just to work and need as little maintenance as humanly possible. Because yeah, they need maintenance, but they're not supposed to need that level of maintenance even in South Florida. So then the guy was like, well, they're buying units that have these lights built in. Apparently they don't make them bacterial resistant anymore, so they just do this instead, and these are very common lights. They sit right above the little water reservoir and they just take care of the algae that way. Whatever, what do I know about AC units? So considering we already bought this one, we sort of had to make the best of a bad situation. So my husband goes on Amazon, he picks up a little wand light, which I'll pop on the screen here so you can kind of see what it looks like. It has good reviews, it doesn't seem that complicated to install, so we just go with it and hope for the best. We've had this thing in our house for just over 3 months, and the paperwork on it said that it was not supposed to also produce ozone, but it couldn't guarantee that it didn't. But regardless, it was supposed to be at a low enough amount that it wouldn't cause any problems. So whatever. It smelled a little bit funny from time to time, but it's not something that we thought too much about. Fast forward again, the light is working. My husband doesn't have to flush the system anymore. There's no more algae. So it's doing exactly what it is supposed to do, or at least it was until this last Friday. So it's like 4 or 5 in the afternoon and I'm back there checking the valve. This little white box that is behind the light that you hopefully can see in the picture is the thing that I need to unscrew to check the valve. And I don't know if I'm describing that correctly, but that's what I would call it. Anyway, it was difficult to get off. So I was struggling. I don't have very strong fingers. I was struggling to open it. So that meant that I was looking at this light for a prolonged amount of time. I would say all in all, I was in there for like 20 minutes. Thank God I wasn't looking at the light the entire time, but I was looking at it for a long time, especially when I was fiddling with that box and trying to open it, which I did twice. I opened and closed it once. It was hard to close too, so that took more time than it should. But I did it the first time, the valve was fine, so I reattached it. And then my husband had me go back in and check it again just to like be super sure. So I was looking at this light for a long time. It was really not good. It took a lot long for me to be in there doing what I was doing than it did for him to even install it in the first place. So I was getting a lot of exposure. I can't fix it, so I call the AC company. They give me the runaround. They were supposed to come that night, but instead they told me they could come the following morning. So Saturday morning is when they actually showed up. It's like 5 or 6 at night. I go on with my day. There's no problem with the temperature. It stays at 78. It doesn't get hotter than that. It's Friday night. So I make dinner for me and the dogs. I'm watching TV. I'm living my life. However, starting from earlier that day, I did think I had allergies. Even when I was out at the vet's office, I was feeling like a little bit of a seasonal allergy type thing going on. And that was also at the same time that I started smelling the ozone in higher concentration. So the smell in the house is what we noticed first, and then the AC breaking. So I was definitely irritated earlier in the day, meaning when I was getting more irritation around, I don't know, like 10 p.m., I thought it was just more of the same. I thought it was just more of my allergies being problematic and annoying. I have very dry, very itch-prone eyes to begin with, so I didn't think that much of it. I was watching TV, The Beast in Me, loving that show, having a good old time until about midnight. That's when the real pain started. So I was freaking out. I was home alone. I didn't know what to do. I tried to go to bed. I laid down, but I couldn't close my eyes. It was horrifically painful to keep them open, but it was even more painful actually to shut them. The act of closing my eyes felt like I turned the burner way up, and it was just like fire in my eyeballs. It was probably the worst pain that I've ever been in, and I have had several surgeries. I have been through some stuff in my lifetime, and this was the worst. They say that burns are the worst kind of pain that we can feel as humans, and I would agree with that. This was the most pain I've ever been in. Finally, around 3 in the morning, I'm talking to my father because I'm crying. I don't know what to do. I put my pants on. I was going to try to get an Uber to the emergency room because I was at a total loss. There was no way. I couldn't see. I could barely function. So Ubers were up and running, and that was my original plan. He convinced me, though, that this actually called for 911. So I did. For the first time in my life, I called 911. It's never even occurred to me to do that. I have never been in a situation, thank God and knock on wood, I've never been in a situation that escalated to that extent. And even with this, I was freaked out that I was taking them away from something more important, but he convinced me that in my area, we have enough resources, it wasn't going to be like that, and it was okay to call. So I did. Paramedics showed up, and I have to say, they did not take me seriously, not even a little bit. I thought that I was having an allergic reaction. At this point, I had no idea what was going on. I thought that I was having an acute allergic reaction to something. However, my airways weren't swollen, my eyes weren't totally swollen shut, so it's not like they could have given me an EpiPen. They actually had no ideas for me at all. They didn't think it was serious. They thought that one of them asked me if I was tired. This man looked at me looking like this, and said, "Maybe you're just tired." I nearly lost my mind when I heard that. And they made jokes like, "Have you been smoking weed?" and that kind of thing. It was not helpful. It was not good. Needless to say, they left my house. They did nothing. They said they would have taken me to the hospital if I wanted to, but they didn't think they could help me there either. So I waited. and I took Benadryl because, again, I thought I was having an allergic reaction. The Benadryl helped me sleep for maybe an hour. If that, I don't even know. But luckily, by 8 o'clock the next morning, the AC repairman actually showed up at my door. And the second he saw me, he took one look at my eyes and he knew exactly what happened. He knew I looked at this light. And fortunately, he had done this himself. He had gone through this himself. He knows how painful it is, especially if you have very light colored eyes. I have pretty pale blue eyes, so does he. Neither of us leave the house without sunglasses ever. Like, I am so light sensitive. I don't even like being places with bright light. I actually look forward to daylight savings because when the sun goes down, I feel a sense of relief. So I'm starting at a place with very sensitive eyes. He told me that he had experienced this working on these AC units, and so had some of his employees. They've gone to the hospital in the past, but there was nothing they could really do for them there other than put lidocaine drops in their eyes. Based on that information, I tried to wait it out. I went as long as I could, and then finally I went to urgent care. While I was in urgent care, they did put the lidocaine drops in my eyes, and it definitely took the edge off. Side note about that though, the lidocaine itself, when it gets into your bloodstream, it can cause your heart rate to increase, and that's fine for almost anybody, but for me, that causes panic attacks. So I was also having panic attacks at this point, so that was not a lot of fun, but it did make it so that I could shut my eyes, and I was hoping that things were just magically going to start to get better. The AC guy said it usually takes about 48 hours and then you start feeling better. I was halfway there, so according to this doctor, the lidocaine drops could last hours, maybe even through the night. So I Uber home from there, freaking out the whole time because I don't even realize that I'm having a panic attack from the lidocaine. I'm in rare form. I get home, I take a few deep breaths, and then I realize that the drops have completely worn off. And if anything, I am in more pain now than I was originally. Fortunately, the best thing they did for me at this urgent care was give me the name to an eye-only ER. So there's an ER located at the University of Miami where they only deal with eye emergencies. They were hoping that I wouldn't need to go there, but they said if the pain came back, to go there, not to waste my time with the general ER. I am so grateful to this doctor that she knew to give me that recommendation, and I'm even more grateful to my sainted mother-in-law because she went with me, and at this point, I am not well. I haven't been able to eat either because the whole thing is making me sick to my stomach. So since Friday, I'm not eating. I am drinking coffee so that I don't get migraines, but I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, and I have caffeine and lidocaine streaming through my blood. I am a basket case at this point. So she drops everything, picks me up. At this point, it's probably 7 o'clock at night. But we head directly to the University of Miami. We find the hospital. It's kind of crazy. I mean, parking and finding it was kind of a mess, but we got there. I was not expecting the waiting room to be completely full, especially considering they only deal with eyes. I was shocked at the number of eye emergencies there could be in one place, but it was quite packed. So we had to wait. We had to wait hours. It took 5 hours for me to finally see the doctor, get my eyes checked, and get a prescription. Luckily, I was able to meet with a nurse prior to that, and as soon as I told her what happened, she knew exactly what I was talking about because not only do they put these lights in AC units, but during COVID, they were selling these lights to people as a way to kill COVID in their homes and offices. So people were just putting them up everywhere without realizing that they were extremely dangerous to look at. This is not like the blue lights in the acne mask. These sanitizing blue lights it's UV radiation. I mean, it is just so bad for your eyes and you don't feel the pain right away. After an exposure, which can be as little as a few seconds for some people, it usually takes around 6 hours for the pain to start. Out of pure curiosity, I looked one of these lights up just to see if there was any fine print anywhere that said, do not ever under any circumstances look at this for more than a few seconds, and some of them did, but they didn't make a big deal out of it. Now, this nurse explained to me that these lights, if they're even remotely reputable, would come with covers on them, so they can be used to sanitize specific specific things. So if you have the light here and you put it here, it can sanitize the surface. They have them for phones. After COVID, they came out with these little sanitizing devices for a lot of different things, and they can be effective used in that very specific way. However, what they don't do is sanitize a room. They do nothing to sanitize air at all whatsoever. So not only is the entire thing snake oil, the entire thing is not only not sanitizing your house, the only thing it is doing is damaging your eyes. So they are totally useless. Don't buy those under any circumstances. Some of them promote the sanitizing light feature. Other versions of it promote the ozone feature. Neither are useful in that capacity. This is all different from the ozone machine. We've had commercial ozone machines inside our house after a flood. If you've lived in Florida, you've probably experienced a flood at some point, so they are useful for mold mitigation purposes. But there's a lot of safety parameters around that. So first of all, you're not in the house when they're doing that. When these machines are running, you are not in the house even for a second of it. Once they're off for like 24 hours, then you can come back in and the ozone's gone. But you're not supposed to be breathing it in. And the biggest difference is those machines circulate air, so they're blowing the ozone around. These lights, they don't have air filter features. They're just these static lights that just sit there, burn your eyes, and give off a little bit of ozone that's not really doing anything. So they are truly not just useless, but harmful for everybody involved. Somehow I knew that. So when those lights became popular during COVID, I knew to ignore it. I knew that's not how science worked, so I just moved on with my life. But I know some of the marketing is very convincing. I'll pop up on the screen here one still from one of these lights that I was researching, and you can see how this could be tempting if you're somebody trying to keep your family healthy. Of course, who wouldn't? I bought my parents an air filtration system during COVID because I was terrified for them and I wanted to keep them alive. I have purifiers in my own house that I don't use anymore, but I used to help cut down the allergens and all type of stuff. So it's definitely the type of thing that you could easily fall for the marketing and be tempted to consider. And yes, if you read all of the instructions, you will know to leave the room while it's on, but so many people are going to miss that. And this nurse told me that during COVID, when these first became popular, they would see a rush of people at like 3 a.m. because they would get the exposure early in the day. It would take 6 hours for them to feel the pain, and then it was a whole bunch of people experiencing the same thing at once. Luckily, the popularity of those have died down. However, we are headed into a pretty nasty flu season from what I've heard. We still have COVID, and Lord knows we could have another pandemic. So I figured, even though there's not a lot of like AC repair people watching my channel, all of us at some point might get an advertisement for one of these lights as a sanitizing feature for our house. So I figured it was worth my time to explain what happened to me, to warn you, if you ever see a light like this, to definitely not look at it. I mean, the ozone was irritating and it wasn't good to breathe in, but I don't think that actually harmed me. What did harm me was looking at that light though. Even for a few seconds, it's enough to burn you. And the more sensitive your eyes are, the worse the pain is going to be. The thing I don't know is if my eyesight is going to return to where it was, which was 2020. It's too soon for me to know that for sure, but the biggest thing is that my retina's okay. When the guy was looking at my eye, this doctor, by the way, this guy was not my favorite. He had no bedside manner. I think for him, this was a run-of-the-mill thing. But he looked at my eyes and he was like, "Oh yeah, those were real scratched up. I bet that hurts." Like, that's not funny. It's not funny. I don't think it'll ever be funny, but certainly not yet. But then when he got to the back of my eye and he said that looked okay, that was the biggest sigh of relief. Because that's okay, I can heal from this fully, but it is like a sunburn. So any damage is not good. A single sunburn can cause skin cancer, and it's similar with this. A single burn can cause lifelong problems. Because I can see okay now, I'm hoping that I continue to have improvement. I haven't worn makeup makeup since this happened. So today is Monday. It's been over a week now that I haven't put anything on my eyes. And as soon as I'm done filming this, I'm going to take this off, and I'm not going to wear makeup tomorrow. I'm not going to probably wear makeup again until Thanksgiving, just to give my eyes as much of a rest as I can. But the acute pain has passed, so I am extremely grateful for that. The one other thing that happened that rubbed salt in this wound, kind of, was the prescription I got. So he gave me a prescription for erythromycin, which is an antibiotic. So it came in a gel that you put in the corner of your eyes, and it just prevents an infection from starting, because heavily scratched corneas, like, I was at big risk for infection. So I started using it immediately, and I was using it twice a day, and I was putting a lot in because, you know, you blink it out, whatever. I was overcompensating probably. Now, I had never taken oral erythromycin, so I didn't realize the reaction that I had to this medication. I don't even know how to describe this. I was throwing up and I had diarrhea. I have probably not been that sick since I had the flu. For 4 days, I was just as sick as humanly possible without having other symptoms that align with a flu, COVID, a stomach bug, nothing. Nothing made sense. I didn't have a fever. I didn't have the chills, no sinus stuff. Like, I had nothing else going on. Because originally I thought that I picked something up at urgent care. Plenty of sick people crawling all over urgent care, so I assumed that's what happened. But as I was going on and still not developing these symptoms, I just kind of felt like I was dying, and I didn't know why. I was also having palpitations and all kinds of, like, shortness of breath, probably from loss of electrolytes, but it was starting to get scary. So as the days went on, finally, Friday night, I went to the emergency room. I don't go to the doctor. Like, I am not good about stuff like that. It takes a lot for me to consider that, but I was genuinely on my knees. I felt like I was completely out of options. I was desperate. So my husband luckily was home. He took me to the ER. Fortunately, it wasn't too insanely busy, and I was able to get at least checked out. So they were at least able to look at my blood work, confirm that it didn't seem like I had exposure to anything. Like, I don't know, ozone can cause problems. So that was in the back of my mind. But no, none of that was the case. I didn't have anything that they could at least test for. Everything was coming back negative. The doctor was kind of like, here's some anti-nausea stuff, and, like, you're on your way. But luckily, I also was able to speak to a nurse who looked a little bit further into it and said, okay, erythromycin, you wouldn't think that putting it in your eyes could cause that amount of nausea. However, putting it directly into your tear duct will put it directly into your bloodstream, and you can have a reaction like this. Almost anyone is going to feel nauseous on erythromycin. That's why when they put it in things like Z-Pak, they add things to counteract the nausea. It's kind of a nasty antibiotic for the side effects. So people taking them orally have other things going on, whether it's food or whatever else they add to the meds to sort of buffer that effect. When I was using it in the eye gel, there was nothing to buffer it. So it was going straight into my bloodstream. I had nothing in my stomach because it wouldn't occur to me to eat food with an eye gel. So I was just, like, mainlining erythromycin for like 5 days. It was destroying my life. Luckily, it was a preventative, so I could stop taking it. However, it still took 3 days for it to fully get out of my system. So yesterday, Sunday, was the first day I didn't throw up. So I was so grateful. I finally saw a light at the end of the tunnel. Since all of this started on Friday, I was in so much pain between my eyes and my stomach. I was an absolute mess. So finally, feeling even the slightest bit normal on Sunday, I was just so incredibly grateful. Now, today's Monday, and I don't feel great. My stomach is still I still kind of feel like it's flipped inside out. Like, the last thing on this earth that I would want to see right now is a piece of sushi. Like, my husband recommended that for dinner a couple nights ago, and I was like, oh my God, like, I can't even picture that in my head. I'm not there yet. I still have a ways to go in my recovery from all of this, and my eyes still hurt. I still have eye pain, which can cause migraines. I get migraines, and migraines make me nauseous. So, you know, I still have things going on. I'm not 100% yet. I'm hoping by this Thursday, Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving that I'm feeling a little bit better so that I can go through the whole time without really needing to shut my eyes or lay down. But at this point, I'm just grateful that the worst is over. I can finally take a deep breath and I can tell my story so other people don't ever have to learn this very, very painful lesson. I would say stay away from those lights. If you see anybody even looking to buy one, scream at them and tell them not only is it useless, but it could potentially ruin their eyes. And if you ever get anything with erythromycin in it, maybe try to buffer it, try to eat food, or see if there's any alternatives if you have a sensitive stomach or if you have a sensitivity to it. I think I do. I don't know that everybody would react the way I did. This nurse told me that she considers it an allergy. Anybody who has a reaction this strong, she says you tell them that you can't take erythromycin. So for the rest of my life, I will be letting people know that. I won't be taking that again, hopefully. But I guess I wouldn't have known either of these things if this didn't happen to me. So hopefully that's the silver lining here. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm upping, I'm taking supplements for dry eye. I was doing that already. That's not something new, but I am being more diligent about that. I was always good about sunglasses, but if anything, I'm just going to be more aware of all of it, try to take even better care of my eyes than I already was, because eye stuff is terrifying. I don't ever want to do anything to compromise my eyesight, so I'm trying to learn from this and grow and not look back. I would love to sue. I would love to sue this light company, or hell, I mean, even my AC company, because I think they gave us a really crappy air conditioner. They didn't explain things correctly. This guy tried to blame it all on my husband and it pissed me off, but I wouldn't really sue them. I would love to sue all of these light manufacturers. I think these lights are not being sold properly. They should come with covers if they are going to sell them, and they don't, and that's a problem. But anyway, I don't think any of that is actually going to happen. So I'm going to try to just take a deep breath, learn from this, tell everybody that I know, and move on. But that is where I've been. That's why I have not been testing makeup. I have so many things to review right now, but I really haven't been wearing makeup. So it'll probably be everything that I talked about in my last video in terms of videos that I plan on doing. Sephora haul updates, Danessa Myrick, CO2 laser review, end of year ranking, all that. Like, I don't know that I'll get to the end of year ranking, but I'm going to do my level best to at least come out with one video a week between now and the holidays. And that is all for me tonight. I hope this was somehow helpful to you now or at some point in your lifetime. And I hope you're having a beautiful day or night wherever you are. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.